Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 11. I'm your host, VyseTheBold.
I am Lotus Prince.
And I'm Pyrojackfrost.
We have another great shoe for you guys today.
Boo.
A great shoe?
You're a great shoe.
I tend to wear two shoes.
Or else one shoe is useless. You ever notice that? You can never sell just one shoe.
Well, I mean, if you find somebody with the other shoe...
Well, you're meant to be together.
Yeah, at that point it's fate.
You can also never really sell one pant either.
Well, that involves
you need to have a pair of pants.
That's the thing. You would have to take a perfectly serviceable piece of clothing and cut it in half. You would be selling a damaged piece of clothing.
Just one leg. Well, hey, if someone only has one leg, then...
That's a good point. It'd be perfect.
But...
It's just like, all you need is a tube of fabric. Some kind of tube. But yeah, this is a lovely discussion about geekdom and...
How about we just restart the entire thing? This is a freaking disaster.
We'll mulligan
last time when we said to restart it.
This is a sinking ship. We need to abandon it right now.
Yeah. An SYNCING ship.
Oh god, we're all in sync.
It's the internet, folks.
It's been nice. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Until next time, Pyro.
But I did want to move on sometime to what we did this week. One thing in particular that I wanted to talk about with everybody was Lotus came over yesterday. And
we've mentioned saltiness before about a particular subject. Now it's double saltiness.
Oh, okay, yeah. So several of you guys...
you were going to say the positive thing first?
I was going to say the positive thing, but since you ruined it, and
I'm sorry.
There were spoilers about the shit time we had.
We were talking about it just before the podcast started. I'm sorry.
But the audience already knows that you came over, so they already know I had a shit time. But
That's
anyway,
That's a good point.
You came over.
No, actually, Lotus Prince had a shit time because he was visiting you.
Oh
wow! I didn't even have to say it. But yeah, just to make a long story hopefully short, we tried recording Crazy Power Disc Perfect again, and the first time it didn't work because we used a program called Voice Recorder, which actually is a pretty sweet program, but it turns out if you minimize it, it automatically pauses, which means that we did not get any of our commentary recorded. So this time we learned from our mistake, and we even tested it first. We kept the program up and big on the screen, pressed record, went into the game, gave ourselves 10 seconds, hi, I'm Lotus, we're playing Crazy Power Disc. Okay, that was fun, and we closed the game. Recording was good. That's confirmation for me. So we activated Voice Recorder with the program still up and big on the screen, went into Crazy Power Disc, and it just kind of stopped after 35 seconds. So again, no commentary recorded. God damn it, that program pisses me off now.
So never use Voice Recorder for really anything.
Yeah, for podcasting it's great, but if you're planning on playing full-screen PC games, you're going to have a bad time.
And there is good reason to use it. It is your default sound recorder in...
It's free. So.
In Windows 10. So
it is a genuinely good program. When you press the stop recording button, it automatically saves your things. You can't accidentally lose your save. You always have a file for it, and records it in a good file format. But that's if it feels like freaking working. It's ridiculous. You can't do anything else while you're recording. Podcast only, I guess.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah.
But we did do some other gaming and some other things. When you came in, I was actually playing some Truxton. Which was pretty
that's right,
cool.
Yeah.
Which is an old Towplan vertical shmup, and it's a favorite on the Genesis. There's a good version of it on the Genesis, but I wanted to play the arcade version, so I just booted that up in MAME just to play around in that. It's a precursor to a lot of the bullet hell shmups around. Very fast gameplay, very frustrating, but also a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult game. But I didn't play very much of that other than that. The Japanese name makes a lot more sense. It's Tatsujin, rather than Truxton. What the hell does Truxton
what?
Yeah,
it's such a weird name.
Jin means person. Tatsu means, storm? Something like that.
That might be right, because I remember, Ryu's like hurricane kick is Tatsumaki Senpukyak.
So that would make sense because then it's storm person or person storm, and when you drop a bomb in that game, it's like a big skull.
Oh,
like,
that was that game?
Yeah.
I remember seeing that on the back of the box for the Genesis game. It was like, damn, what is this?
That might be the person storm, if that makes sense. Like that you're releasing, but Japan. But
yeah, they do what they want.
Someone will tell us eventually what that means.
Yeah. Master Tatsu. But anyway, we played extensively a good amount of Mother Russia bleeds, which was a
Mother
lot
Russia
of fun.
Bleeds is it's a new beat 'em up, but it's done in the pixel art to look like an old style. But it has a lot of modern things going for it. It plays with foreground and background. It has a sort of a resource system. The thing is, your characters, after the prologue, get drugged, and an undisclosed period of time goes by that you find out much later. But you've been out for a while, and you've just been in some dungeon getting drugged for whatever purpose, so you kind of have this addiction to it. So what happens is you have these syringes on you, and when you beat enemies, you can kind of stick them and drain this liquid that they have in them, this like necro drug, and you can use it to heal yourself for up to 3 doses. Or if you're playing co-op, you can walk up to your partner and heal him. You could heal your AI partner as well. If there's this one part where there's a sort of escort mission, you could heal your AI partner. Or you can give yourself a berserk mode where your attacks are way more powerful, and you can put an end to the berserk mode far more quickly if you do just an insta-kill on enemy goons.
Yeah, you can punch their head clean. You can punch their head cleanly off too.
Yeah, the game is very violent,
and the head becomes a melee weapon.
Yeah, it drops to the ground, and you can pick it up and hit people with it and throw it.
Awesome.
Speaking of which, you can. There's a basic enough combo system, but you can like shoulder throw enemies. You can throw them in the air and do like a power bomb, like jump after them and grab them. You can. If enemies jump kick you, you can air throw them and power bomb them. You can catch thrown items and throw them back or use them yourself. You can do your basic hits, or if you hold the attack button down, a more powerful hit. You beat the bosses in creative ways. Some of them you just beat up. Some you have to punch into this like death machine. One of them was on a set of like 2 train tracks at the upper part of the screen, the lower part, and he wears night vision goggles, so you have to throw a flash grenade at him, which stuns him temporarily, and then if you get your timing right, you'll stun him just before the train hits him on the set of tracks he's standing on, and if you do that 4 or 5 times, the game's really entertaining. We got through the halfway point, and
he takes 4 or 5 hits from a train before he dies.
Video games.
Yeah.
So we got about to the halfway
also,
point of the
like,
game.
there's like this lady who obviously goes through like a gigantic wood chipping machine.
Yeah, that's
like,
what I was talking about.
Several times in a row. I mean, come on.
But like I said, we were getting through the halfway point of the game before we stopped. But there's a level select system. You can play any level that you've already gotten to. Yeah,
it's up to 4 players too. You might be able to join at some time, Pyro.
Yeah, and as you noted, one of the characters is named Boris, and one of them is named Natasha, and it's like
for you kids that don't know, Rocky and Bullwinkle.
It's a Rocky and Bullwinkle reference. That's what they're referencing. Freaking Rocky and Bullwinkle. All right. The only downside I say to the game.
Although I think Rocky and Bullwinkle were actually referencing something else first.
That's possible.
Maybe so. And the only real downside I say to the game, and this is minor because you can skip the story scenes and go right to the action, so it's like not really a big deal. But the dialogue is pretty juvenile. There's a lot of like I don't mind swearing, but there's a lot of like just. It feels out of place, it's like unnecessary swearing. There's a whole lot of like,
like
oh man, shit, we're fucking shit up. Yeah, it looks like somebody's like amateur fan fiction. It's like, what was it?
I thought about that with the new Devil May Cry. I didn't play it.
Yeah, the game is amazing, but the writing is like the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun though. So you said if there's any detraction to using the Berserk mode, and the real detraction in there is the risk you can't heal yourself with that dose. So like there are no healing items. There's just the goo. So you
have to get it from enemies. What's nice though is if you do not heal or regain your drug between levels, like when you beat a level and enter the next one, but if you die, and like if both partners die, then when you respawn, you'll be at full health and full drug. It's like God Hand. If you die, you restart again with the full health. What is cool, though, is you can also, I forgot to mention this, you can heal with it, you could go berserk. If your partner goes down, you can also revive the partner. Even if you don't have any drug left, you could still revive the partner. It just takes a little longer to do, and you have to sit through the animation of your character throwing up because you're going through, like, a sort of withdrawal. But you can keep doing it, just... Yes, enemies can interrupt you while you do it, so careful.
Who throws up? The character who's reviving?
The one who's doing the reviving, because you're like...
he's trying to get some goo out of his system to use.
Yeah, I guess. Like, you really, like, you gotta conserve that stuff. So, it's surprising. Like, it's
well,
basic, but it is resource management.
That only happens if you've run out of goo.
Yeah, because, like, what are you giving them at that point, right? So,
you're just giving them precious blood.
Yeah, like, you don't lose health, I don't think, but it's...
You do.
Like, oh, you actually do?
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, it's either way, it's not good. Like, you gotta be really careful. But like, and the game throws enemies at you, but
also everything is really trashy. Like everything like is downtrodden and gross.
It's
and
like
there's lots of junkies and stuff.
Yeah, the
and
basic
hobos.
setting is 1980s Russia, so there's this civil unrest and there's graffiti everywhere and everything. But it's a really entertaining game, so I would like to come back to that at some point and finish it and see what the bosses are like, because the characters are gorgeously depicted and animated.
Yeah, and we also watched Phantasm III, which I wanted to get to.
Yeah, you've had the trilogy for a long time, and we've been watching them. Yes, I know there's a fourth one, but you have, like, the trilogy. The fourth one was made way later.
Yeah. So this is kind of a guilty pleasure of ours. I like B-horror movies quite a bit, but...
Phantasm's not a guilty pleasure at all.
Well,
Movie kicks ass.
From outward appearances, it is.
From normal people's perspective.
I guess, but it's good. It's not like we're watching some schlock or something. It's genuinely, like, well done. Although it does, like, as the movies go on, they get cornier jokes with, like, the main character Reggie in the third one.
But they have a lot of charm to them, which doesn't come through in a lot of stuff. Like, most of the characters are experts. Even if they seem like they're not, like, most of the characters are badass in one way or another.
Yeah, this is not Friday the 13th, where you're watching a bunch of idiots making stupid decisions. Yeah, these guys really, really know what they're doing. The problem is that the villain of the movie, like you really, like, you can't fight this guy. And if you do, he'll come back later. Like, you really, we still haven't found the way to beat him yet.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. The more the series goes on, the more you find out about how weird what everything is going on is. Like, it's not really explained, and then they explain it, but it still doesn't make much sense. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they give you some logic of maybe what he does, but you're kind of still unsure of his ultimate motivation or who he is or where he's from. The fourth movie touches a bit upon who he is and where he's from. Kind of. Like, kind of.
And that's why the fourth one isn't as good, because it ruins the secret.
No, not really.
That doesn't ruin anything.
Well, you haven't seen the fourth movie yet.
I haven't seen any of them.
The fourth one actually kind of answers and simultaneously raises questions. Like, the fourth movie... With the first movie, there's this scary guy, oh my god, what do we do? The second and third movies are more of an active attack on the bad guy. They're following him through the country and trying to, like, take him down if they can. And the fourth movie is very exploratory. Like, it goes into the relationship between the guy, Mike, who was the kid in the first movie and now is an adult in the second, third, and fourth movie, the sort of relationship he has with the tall man's the villain, and what they're supposed to sort of work to do. It's more of a learning experience than a let's go get him, like the second and third movie were. So it also goes very interesting places. And apparently they actually went ahead and made the fifth movie that'll be released in early October. I cannot freaking believe it. I thought that was just something that they discussed and never did, so I'm insanely hyped for that.
It's needless to say, it's probably going to be the conclusion.
I think the description actually said it was the conclusion, so I'm okay. And like again, you haven't seen the fourth movie, but I said this much: the way the fourth movie ended, and this is not a spoiler, I don't tell you plot details, but the fourth movie is one of those like we're gonna have a final showdown, like the fifth movie's gonna be the end kind of endings. So so the fifth movie was made, so I'm curious as to where they're gonna go, because the world was basically post-apocalyptic in like the second movie. So it's like, where do you go?
Yeah, it's really
or at least America. I don't know about the world. You only
those
really see
movies
like Midwestern America.
Are really enjoyable to anybody who likes that kind of sci-fi horror kind of atmosphere. It's not, they're not really scary, but
yeah, like if it happened
fun.
to you, it'd be scary. But it's more of like a horror thriller kind of.
Yeah, and what I particularly like about those movies is that the main characters are very clever with their surroundings. Like they use stuff that's around them rather than like something really powerful that somebody invented, or like a MacGuffin kind of thing.
I was just going to use that word. Yeah, they don't have to find the MacGuffin. I mean, there will be little things that the movie might telegraph, like this is going to be used, but it's stuff they've seen for a while and they're aware of, and it's like it's not otherworldly or anything.
It also have competent heroes.
Yeah, and once, right?
They also use like plot points from like the first movie in the third one in order to solve a problem that they have, which I thought was totally blew my mind.
That was clever. And like I said, in the fourth movie, they actually used deleted scenes from the very first movie as like, here's some other stuff the Tall Man did way back then. Like, so they used deleted scenes as new footage, which I thought was a really interesting decision. And it kind of works.
Yeah, so I've been really enjoying those, and I urge our fans, if they have any interest at all in that kind of thing, definitely pick up the first one and see whether you like it, because the first one's really good. The third one is also really good. I like all three of them so far have been great.
Yeah, my favorite one is the second one, but they're all really good.
I haven't been disappointed.
By the way, for anyone who might not know the Phantasm movies, you might kind of. Vice, you like to mention this. In Star Wars The Force Awakens, Captain Phasma, that female stormtrooper with the chrome silver armor, she was named after Phantasm, and her armor is representative of those steel balls that the Tall Man has and shoots around. And also in the Venture Brothers, there was one villain, I forgot who, it might have even been Underbite. He just has one of those steel balls that floats on its own accord, like, for no reason. Like, it's just kind of there, and you're like, was that a Phantasm reference? And so, like, there's that as well.
I also might add that I think they might not totally be related, but I can see where you can make the case here, and you could probably bring it up to him in an interview, that J.J. Abrams might have used some of that inspiration for 10 Cloverfield Lane.
That I wouldn't know.
Okay, so I'll just put this out there. I'm not going to ruin anything about that movie, because like a lot of like finding out what the deal with everything is in that movie is the fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in it, the main character is extremely resourceful with her surroundings. Mm-hmm. And just the concept of that, like being able to use like anything as a tool. Anything. Like anything in the room is a tool in order to help you get what you need done.
I don't know if that's inherently a Phantasm reference, but then again, J.J. Abrams is a big Phantasm fan, so maybe at least he was.
Well,
by that.
He produced 10 Cloverfield Lane and had a lot to do with it, and the first one was his movie. So
yeah, like Phantasm 1, they kind of made use of what they had, especially at the end. But Phantasm 2 and 3, they really went all out with the resourcefulness.
Absolutely,
especially that like rated R Home Alone Kevin McAllister kid who had this entire house set up of death traps and just straight up kills like 3 home invaders in like under 10 minutes. Like Home Alone is 2 movies. Like, I mean, with Harry and Marv anyway, is 2 movies, and like this kid just like murders these 3 people who came in the house and wanted them dead, like extremely. Like, I think it was maybe like 5 or 6 minutes. He just wrecks them. It's ridiculous.
I gotta check these movies out.
They're fun.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend them, Pyro. And I just wanted to mention real quick that I bought a couple games that I didn't get to play yet, but I wanted to talk about them because they're interesting to me, at least. I bought Pac Man Championship Edition 2, which recently came out on Steam.
It wasn't that great.
Well, I really like the first one, and I like DX as well. So, and I'm a big Pac Man fan in general. So I picked it up, and I'll make my own opinion of it. I always it might go along with that, but who knows. And I also, in the retro gaming sphere, I picked up the last Ernest Evans game that I didn't own. If anybody knows what these games are, it's a trilogy of games that came out for the Genesis that are not necessarily good games, but they're really weird and interesting.
Well, that's what we like.
Yes. Yeah. So, they're called the Ernest Evans trilogy because they, like all three games feature this one character named Ernest Evans, and they're made by Wolf Team, which went on to make they went on to make Fantasy. What's that series?
The Final Fantasy series, like Phantasy Star.
Not Phantasy Star. That's that's Sega. It's the Namco one.
Oh, I have no idea.
Tales of Fantasia. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well. The PHA. Okay, yeah. Fine. All right.
Yeah. No, that was my fault. But anyway, yeah, they went on to make Tales of Fantasia and Star Ocean. But anyway,
they did Star Ocean as well. Nice.
Well, Tri-Ace and them and Wolf Team are kind of like incestuous. They kind of like traded members a lot.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So anyway,
Tri-Ace worked on Bait and Kaitos.
Yeah. So Wolf Team made a lot of not necessarily good games, but interesting ones, especially for the Sega CD and the PC Engine CD.
Come to think of it, I thought Wolf Team sounded familiar. Didn't they do like Revenge of the Ninja?
Yes, they made a bunch of the FMV games, including Road Avenger. But
that's right, because I remember I turned on those games. Wolf Team. I'm like, whoa, okay, chill out.
But they just did the programming there. They didn't make those games.
Those are Japanese arcade games.
Yeah, those games were made by Data East.
Of course they are.
Yeah. Well, and then that creator went on to make Double Dragon after that. But anyway. That's why the Road Avenger cars
in your garage.
Yeah.
And nobody knew that at the time because who the hell played Road Avenger?
And the Cobra Command plane is in the second Double Dragon.
Oh, cool. I still need to play Cobra Command.
Yeah. But anyway, so they made this trilogy of games. So the first one's called Ernest Evans, and he's essentially Indiana Jones but anime. But it's a really, really, really weird game. You walk around and you think it would be kind of like Castlevania because you just be going around whipping things, and you are, and you know how in Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania 4, you can kind of whip around by holding the whip. Well, imagine that, but all of his limbs do that.
Nice. Wait, so it's like QWOP.
Yeah, it's like playing QWOP. Indiana
Except you
Jones.
can actually play it.
All of his limbs are a separate sprite.
Freaking Data East, they are ridiculous.
No, that's Wolf Team. It's Wolf Team.
Oh, it is Wolf Team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Wolf Team. So yeah, it's fun because it's like, what the fuck am I playing? But
I was thinking Data East because I was just reading the HG 101 book and I was reading about the Data East Indiana Jones game, but I forgot what it was called.
Oh yeah, the cliffhanger, Edward Randy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually a good game, but that's
I was gonna say I don't remember the whip thing going on, but yeah, wrong game.
Yeah, but Ernest Evans, Edward Randy, I could see.
Yeah, and I just read it today.
No, that makes sense. And then there's a game after that called El Viento, which is Spanish for the wind.
The Viento. Yeah, it's the wind, yeah.
Yeah. So, that is starring his sidekick, kind of, I guess. Or, I don't know. It's complicated. But apparently maybe the Ernest Evans in that game is a grandson of the Indiana Jones one, but they have the same name and look exactly the same. I don't know, like Kenshiro and all of his family.
Oh yeah, and then Fist of the Blue Sky, where it just is Kenshiro.
It's his uncle, but it's Kenshiro.
He's not even drawn differently. It's not even
he looks exactly the same.
It's really funny. You look at the picture of him, and it's like you said, it's not like, oh yeah, he looks a lot like Kenshiro. It just is Kenshiro drawn. They just called him something else. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like he's displaced in time. It's like Kenshiro's an actor in a different situation.
Right? It's like the Mario games where Mario's just everywhere.
Well,
doing different things.
Or Zelda, Link.
Yeah,
with Link, it's different Links, but with Mario, it's implied that it is, in fact, actors in just different situations. And Mario
that was more... I know they did that in 3, and that was
Yeah.
kind of more their description of it earlier, but I think they've kind of not said that was the case
I mean,
anymore.
I don't think there's an official word on it, but like, nor really should there be, because who cares enough?
I mean,
but like,
I don't know, I
you
like
just
to
put
follow
Mario in a situation and
well, no, that's
see,
the thing.
see how he gets out of it.
In the opening movie for no, not the opening movie, but in Mario Tennis for the GameCube, I think it's Mario Power Tennis. Is that the one? There's this long and surprisingly elaborate, like more than it needs to be, opening sequence. Like it's like a 5-minute movie, just to set up the game. But the ending credits are like the bloopers and like their actors straight up. Like at least for that game.
I like to follow the cartoon lore in the sense that
Oh no,
they're real life people who have
They're from
jumped
Brooklyn.
who've jumped into pipes and gotten transported to the Mushroom Kingdom.
so perfect.
And they're Mario and Luigi Mario.
By the way, what kind of plumbers are they where they're jumping down pipes, and what kind of pipes are they working on?
Those
Yeah.
are true plumbers.
Gigantic green pipes.
True plumbers.
But anyway, so this game is kind of like Valis, if you've ever played Valis before.
No.
Okay.
It sounds familiar.
Yes,
but...
yes, no.
Yes, I mean, no.
Yeah. But no, it's basically like... think about it as kind of like Castlevania, but with less platforming.
Okay.
Kind of like Shinobi, maybe. Like the original Shinobi.
Oh, okay, yeah, there was platforming, but most of it was just move to the right.
Or maybe like Rolling Thunder. You know, kind of like that.
Even less platformer, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So think of it as kind of like you can you're going forward and fighting bad guys on a single plane. There's no foreground or background.
Okay.
But there's not a whole lot of platforming like in Castlevania.
Yeah, Castlevania is like it's almost a platforming game with enemies as excuses.
Exactly. It's mostly platform challenges. So
some of the enemies aren't even threatening except for the fact that they knock you off the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Like Medusa heads.
So that game's pretty cool. I actually like that one quite a bit. It's probably the best out of the trilogy. And both of those games though came out in the United States. Ernest Evans and El Viento did. They're games released by Renovation, which released almost all of
Renovation again
Wolf
with the
Team
Sega CD games, the FMV stuff.
Well, they were Telenet of the United States, so Telenet owned Wolf Team.
Yeah.
They had some common ancestry and stuff like that. So, but there's a third one called Anett Futatabe, which is a beat 'em up, and it's only for the Japanese Sega CD, and I finally picked that up.
Yay!
Which by all accounts is not that great, but I love beat 'em ups anyway, and even goofy ones, not like ones that aren't that great.
And of course, you have a love for the Sega.
Yeah, and I love Wolf Team, so whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like it. And other than the fact that I gave you a really weirdly put together King's Quest V.
Oh man, I was overjoyed. Okay, so here's the thing. I think we might have even... Did we mention this last week? The fact
I
that you
think
got
we
King's
did
Quest
because
V?
we talked about the Sierra bundle and the adventure games. And...
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I was also able to pick up King's Quest V, and it was kind of funny because I've seen this happen before, but there were a couple of extra discs in there because this is an old adventure game, so it's literally 10 discs, to install. So there were like a couple of King's Quest 4 3.5-inch discs and a couple of King's Quest 4 5-inch floppy disks. But this was like a dual booting game, so there were like 9 hard disks and 1 floppy, and then there was a set of 6 disks for the same game for like the 16 colors or whatever, 16-bit, whatever it was called.
Yeah,
where
the
it was
EGA
like
version.
Yeah, where it was like
floppy. Did you?
They actually tell you
more,
to do that in the
they tell
instructions.
They tell you not to do it illegally, but they do tell you to copy like backup. And so like the EGA version had like 5 floppy disks and 1 hard disk. So I actually thought that there was not a single complete set because it only counted up to 9 for one of them and it only counted up to like 1 for the other, and there were 5 missing the 1, but like each disc type complemented the other. It was freaking weird. That box was actually pretty heavy because there were 16 discs that were supposed to be in there, and then 4 discs that weren't.
Yeah, so I loved going through that with you and just like being like, what the hell? Oh wait, yeah, what? What?
Yeah.
Why did they do this? Okay, whatever.
It's such a mess. It's such a mess. And they gave you like a little order form with the manual that said if you want to order like the VGA version, here's how you can do it. Send us your discs and $10, and we'll send you like the superior copy. At this point, they'll just play it on GOG. Thanks. And as for I think that. Before I like overtake anything, was that the conclusion of the games you had played and bought?
The only thing that I want to mention is that I started for the first time in my life playing in a fantasy football league with some former coworkers of mine.
Interesting.
And I have to say that like anybody who thinks that a jock isn't a nerd is
fantasy football is. It's Dungeons and Dragon levels of nerd dumb, except that they're applying stats to real people.
No, it's
like
way
they're not
more.
rolling for stats. They're just like, oh, this player has this much offense and whatever. It's just like, dude, you are a freaking like get the trading cards already.
No, it's even nerdier than D&D. Like the stats are like insane.
I just love how football isn't good enough. Like, there's also fantasy football, but then you make fun of, like, Magic the Gathering and, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. Like, get out of here.
Well, I don't really think that kind of thing goes on anymore.
Not anymore, but it's just
but
like,
when we were kids,
about?
like, nerds were spanked with moon rocks, but, like, you know, like, you know, it was one of those things where, you know, like, idiot, you would look at what you do, you play with Pokemon. But, like, nowadays, I think kids, like, don't make fun of each other for stuff like that. I just don't think they do.
No, video games are kind of, like, really mainstream now.
We blaze some trails, guys. We blaze some trails.
Yeah. Pokemon is, like, a cultural phenomenon instead of that really popular thing among middle school kids. Because the middle school kids grow up and still play it. So, like, the adults like Pokemon now.
Oh, and I have to say that it's also less fun than D&D for me by a long shot. Just because,
with D&D, you get to travel a freaking dungeon. There's the dungeons and the dragons.
Well, I guess the big thing about it is that, like, it is so stats driven that I have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. That's really what it is. So the people
D&D
that are really
stats are the
into
start. Like, you set up your character, but then you actually play the damn game.
The people that are really into it, like you know, are watching the game along with it too, so that helps.
Yeah, but, they understand all the stats and
but like,
stuff like that.
They understand that a touchdown catch by a wide receiver is obviously going to get them points if they have that wide receiver in their stable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like me, I'm just like lost. I don't know how it affects it. I don't know what all of these points are. Like I just don't. I don't know. Like, somebody has to explain it to me, and it's probably so, like, I'm so far behind in knowing this that it'll take a long time for me to catch up, but I'll get it eventually.
It's like Marge Simpson. You just walk in, like, isn't there a bet where all the players have fun? just give you a look.
Oh, I'll have the baby guts.
Mom, that's veal. Lady, you disgust me. Like, you're serving it. Like, what's your problem?
And those are like the main things that I wanted to talk about. So, Lotus, you could go right ahead.
For me, it doesn't get anywhere nearly as comprehensive. Regarding games I bought, when I was over with you, we hit up a GameStop and I picked up the Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Wii. I actually already had it, but this was the Steelbook Collector's Edition with the extra art swag, so I kind of upgraded, so I'll sell my regular trilogy of it later. I also got Legends of the Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 2, so I got that set.
Great outcome game.
Yeah, I got that set for the PS3.
They're so long, though.
Yeah, I need to play them at some point, but I have it now before it disappears.
They're epics, that's for sure.
And the third game I got is probably the best of the bunch, Ride to Hell Retribution, PS3 edition, best game ever made. I look forward to seeing just what a comedy of errors that game is.
That is, so anybody who doesn't know, it is definitely the worst, like, AAA level game made in a very long time.
Yeah, it's way up there. Like the company itself is trying to, like, quash all records of its existence, like George Lucas did with the Holiday Special. Except Lucas didn't make the Holiday Special. Like, this company's trying to quash their own game because people just rag on it so much.
Also, Howard the Duck.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Howard the Duck made it to the point where you could buy it on VHS. Like, Holiday Special the only way we have it now, the only reason we can watch that now is because somebody recorded it on their VCR, like when it aired on TV. Like
that scene with Han Solo swinging. Oh my god,
it was a good one. All right, so those
or
are
that one where they watched Chewbacca porn.
That was
Wookiee porn.
Oh, yes.
That was uncomfortable.
This is an actual thing, guys. I did not make that up.
He's not exaggerating. Like, oh, it's like porn. Like it's
VyseTheBold fanfic.
It's softcore porn. Like straight up. Like no joke. But anyway, point is, I mentioned last week that I had also picked up X-Men 2: The Clone Wars for the Sega Genesis, and I actually put it in today and started playing it. I haven't played this game since I was a kid. Like, since we owned our Genesis before we sold it to help pay for N64. Like, I have not played this game since that point. And it's basically like I remember it. It holds up. The one thing I didn't remember was the soundtrack, and it's not for everybody, but it has that Genesis grit to it, and some of the tracks are really catchy. Like, the first proper level, like, not the prologue level, but the level where you're in the Sentinel Factory, it's got this really cool beat to it. I never was able to beat the game legitimately. I had used invincibility codes or something, or a level select or whatever, but the game's fun, and it's about as challenging as I remember too. But it's one of those games where, surprisingly, enemies do not respawn when you pan off the screen and back, so you can just remember enemy placements and kill them, and get through the level, and just worry about level hazards after that. And you can play as one of 6 X-Men. There's Beast, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Gambit, and Psylocke. And after you beat Magneto, you can unlock him, which blew my freaking mind, because this is X-Men 2. You know, like, it's the second game, and all of a sudden Magneto's selectable. Like, really? Like, that was so cool when I first realized that. Like, because every time you beat a level, you go back to the character select screen. Like, maybe there's a character you're better at with this particular level, and all of a sudden you see Magneto. Like, no way. Like, it was just such a cool reveal at the time. So, I played a little of that, and otherwise, I haven't really been playing anything new, except for just more of Resident Evil Remaster. At this point, I'm missing 3 endings for Chris, but I have all of them for Jill, and I have every achievement except for the really annoying ones. I'm missing the achievement for beating Real Survival Mode, which is just the base game, except that the supply boxes are not linked, so if you put an item somewhere, you have to go back to that box to get it, which can be frustrating. There's Invisible Enemy Mode. You can tell what that is. And the last achievement is just do a knife-only run. And it means actually knife-only. Like, you cannot use even the defensive weapons when you're grabbed. And even if you make a zombie crawl and it grabs your ankles and you stomp its head, that doesn't count either. Like, the description of the achievement tells you that straight up. So you must knife-only. So if you want to do that achievement, you're probably going to have to avoid almost every enemy encounter in the game, because, like, even basic zombies, Resident Evil Remaster has crimson heads. So if you do manage to kill a zombie, it'll only come back faster, stronger, and angrier. So it's like, maybe you'd better just not deal with enemies ever. Yeah. The only enemies you could permakill are spiders, which spew acid when they die, hunters, which can potentially one-shot you if they get their proper attack off, chimeras, which I guess you could deal with, and bosses, which just sucks, because, like, you can't avoid those. You must fight the bosses, except for, like, Plant 42 if you play your cards right. Like, so it's like, you want to get the bad ending, so you don't have to fight Form 2 Tyrant, you know? It's gonna be awful. I don't know if I want to go for that one.
Yeah. No, I totally get you there. You got some mad dedication, man.
Yeah, I mean, I got everything else. I got the pick up every item in the game and explore every room achievement, which isn't so bad when you have the infinite rocket launcher. But yeah, otherwise I got everything. I got every achievement except for the horrible ones. And the Real Survivor one isn't that bad. It's just obnoxious. Invisible Enemy Mode, I guess I could play on easy, but knife only, even on easy, that's going to be horrible. So, I mean, yeah, this is a lot less comprehensive than your description of what you played, because you like trying stuff out, but I play a game until I'm done with it, so that was
gonna be like for me
that
too.
was my experience.
Well, also you played a lot of the games that I played in this week. So,
That's true too.
Yeah.
I played, Mother Russia Bleeds and everything, but otherwise I've just been trying to capture footage for something else, which I won't go into. Although I will say, now that my JoJo LP is finished, next thing that's going to go up is freaking Demon Souls. I'm excited to finally get ready to announce that one formally. Yeah.
Awesome.
Super hyped.
Really good.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right. Well, Pyro, what were you up to?
I
know Shin Megami Tensei 4 is coming out this week, right?
It's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's same as the Lotus. Most of the games I've been playing are just continuing old games. I've been trying to finish Tokyo Mirage Sessions and a replay of Megaten 4 before Apocalypse comes out, but it's getting less and less likely.
Does any data carry over? Do you know?
I think that if you have a save file, you get some stuff, but I haven't really looked into it. But it's one of those things, like, I thought I was farther into the game than I was. Have you ever had a game that you've replayed and you feel like you know how long it's going to be, but the farther you get, you're like, wait, I still have a lot left.
Yeah, I'm still going.
Yeah, no. That happened with me with Skies of Arcadia.
Yeah, like I got to a part in... I mean, like, this playthrough is trying to be more comprehensive than my first playthrough. So I'm trying to get, like, everything, so that's probably adding to it. But the main reason why I wanted to replay it was when I got to the end of it the first time, it was starting to drag on, and I was just rushing through it. I was, like, skipping all the dialogue, and I'm just like, I just want to beat the game. So now I'm actually trying to... So I'm at the part where I started doing that, and I'm trying to actually follow along, but it just feels like there's a lot more left than I remember.
Yeah, no,
I know that feeling. Even with a game you've already beaten, there might be that one kind of minor area or that minor dungeon where you're like, oh yeah, that was a whole section of the game I have to do. I was waiting for the part after that, so like here goes another 2 or 3 hours of gameplay or whatever.
Plus, Megaten 4 isn't really that good in the sense of letting you know where you're going. Like, it tells you where to go, but the map is really bad.
Yeah, it's really bad.
If you don't remember where everything is, you have to go around to every area and see if that's the right place.
Yeah,
and
it's also
kind of annoying.
Like really easy to miss, like a place you could crawl into and stuff like that too.
I know Apocalypse is supposed to be better at that. Also, the fact that you have to like walk everywhere. They have warp points, but you still have to walk a lot. And the spawn rate of enemies is pretty high. And it's one of those things like when you're trying to gather demons and level up, you don't notice it because you're like, I want there to be lots of people. But when you're just trying to get from point A to point B, you're like, come on, like, stop.
And they've already chipped away a lot of your health while you're trying to get to wherever you're gonna get to.
I'm max level and I'm destroying guys. So it's like, it's just, it feels like a waste of my time.
Well, that takes us right back to Skies of Arcadia. Like, that game, I actually wonder, Vice, if the game's longer than you remember, or if, like, you just can't get through a dungeon because the encounter rate is freaking ludicrous.
No, it was more like I got to Valua, and, like, I was like, okay, this is the end of the game because it's Valua, and there was a lot more left.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, like, another thing that, most Mega 10 games have this skill that when you use it, it lowers the enemy rate or, like, removes enemies entirely.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But in this game, instead they have it, the skill, they changed it so you have to hit them with their sword.
Oh, yeah.
To make them go away, so if you miss with the sword, you still have to fight them. It's like,
no.
Come on, just let me remove all enemies because I don't need them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Can't you turn it off?
Them. What?
Can't you manipulate the spawn rates, like in
the
options menu?
Default. That's pretty good default.
Yeah.
I wish it had something like that, but it's like there's no benefit to me fighting these things, and it's not because I'm trying to avoid them because I'm afraid I'm gonna die. It's because
loading screen into the battle, loading screen out. Well, not even loading screen, but just like battle transition in, battle transition out. You got your victory animation. It's like all right.
And a similar thing with Tokyo Mirage Sessions that is getting annoying is the way that game's battle system works is your characters learn these things called sessions. I might have talked about this a few podcasts ago, but it's been a while. So like one character might have a slash fire session, meaning if someone uses slash, they'll follow up with a fire attack.
Oh, okay.
But then if someone else has a fire ice, they'll follow up that fire attack with an ice attack.
Oh, so
chain.
character 1, you could change. So character 1 will use slash, character 2 will automatically use fire, character 3 will automatically use ice.
And it can keep going, and eventually your characters can even use that when they're not in your party.
Oh, nice.
And then eventually you get an ability that you can use that'll let you start chaining again. It's awesome, but the annoying thing is you have to sit through all the animations. There's no way to turn it off.
Ah, oh, come on. Like the Nippon Ichi games learned to do that.
Yeah, I'll be fighting really easy enemies and use a skill, and I know that I'm going to session because I want to kill everything, but it's just like, now I have to sit through all this. Instead of just saying, can I make it so you just show me how much damage it was?
Yeah, Disgaea learned that lesson. Yeah. They have an option where you can make it look like your character does a basic slash and the damage just shows up, even if you were using a super move or something, and it's so efficient.
And it's one of those things that I'm kind of curious if the reason why that happens is because when they're testing it, they're not playing through the whole game, so when they're fighting a few battles, they're like, this is actually really cool. But they're not actually sitting there fighting the same battles over.
That is true. I doubt playtesters play all 100 hours of their RPG or whatever, but they miss stuff like that.
Or is it because they thought it was so cool? They're like, I don't care that it takes a while.
That is definitely possible, but it's at the age where gamers have been pretty vocal about, being anti-unskippable cutscenes and things like that, so you'd think people would pick up on that. Sometimes when a game is missing something that every other game has, you're like, really? Like, what's your excuse? Like again, with the unskippable cutscenes.
Like, you intentionally, ignored that.
Yeah, when you die and you have to watch the boss's entire speech again, it's like, oh, come on. It's 2016, we're doing this now?
It's one of I wonder if it's because they're doing it for challenge reasons, or it's just they have all these other things they're thinking of. It just doesn't.
Yeah, might not click at all.
Hit their radar.
Yeah, maybe not. Who knows?
Because that's like so many games. It's like I don't care how hard you want the game to be. It's like, let me skip cutscenes, let me skip animations.
Yeah, cutscenes are great on a first playthrough. After that, let me just get to the end credits.
Either way, there are probably people who don't care about any of the cutscenes. Just let them skip the cutscenes. I don't care how much. I mean, not that.
Some people, even in I remember on the channel Cinemassacre, on James and Mike Mondays, the first game not James and Mike Mondays. It was Mike Matei and Ryan Schott. They were doing talk about games, and their very first episode was Axiom Verge, which is that basically spiritual successor to Super Metroid, but there's a lot of dialogue in that game. There's a lot of text, and sometimes they're like, well, I just want to play the game. I like Super Metroid, and Super Metroid you just go. So it's like, these guys appreciate the option to skip text because, with few exceptions, they're not really big into big overblown stories. And again, Axiom Verge in particular, I know for a fact, was partly designed with speedrunners in mind. The devs said as much, I think, on A Games Done Quick Marathon. So, this means now some games, I don't know about AAA ones, but some games are designed with speedrunners in mind. So, unskippable cutscenes, really? Again.
Yeah, it's like, I understand that you might not want them to be skipped because you spend so much time doing them, but think about the second playthrough person. Think about the person who's still bought your game.
Well, you can get cute and do it visual novel style with their dialogue. Make it unskippable the first time, and then you can the option will pop up the second time or something. The save file knows that there, best of both worlds.
Yeah, it's like that. Skipping animations, letting you having some way in the game to avoid battles, even if it's something you have to pay in-game money for to get, and difficulty selector. Those are all things you'd think should if not all games should have.
You're making the game for the player.
Yeah.
You're not making it. You are making it for yourself. You are creating a work of art, and you do have a certain modicum of control over it. But in fact, you have all the control in the world over it. But you want to also give people options to enjoy it in different ways.
You can't control how it's played. Once the game is on store shelves, it has left your hands, and the player does what he wants with it. So to a degree, the player can make the game what he'll make of it.
Exactly.
You could do whatever you want with it,
and you want that too. You want people to like it in different ways.
Yeah, that's. I mean, even on YouTube, how many different Let's Plays exist of the same exact game? Some people are funny, some people are serious, some people do 100% runs, some people do speed runs, some people do just beat the game. Yeah, some people don't talk at all. Some people just beat the game. Some people keep their mistakes. Some don't. Some run around in circles because it's goofy. There's all sorts of stuff you can do with it. So you might as well let the player have fun with the thing he paid for.
Make sure you fall asleep before me.
Well, anything else to add, Pyro?
No, I think other than those 2 games. I'm finally think I'm getting bored of that phone game that I've been playing.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things like I've been playing it every day, doing all like the daily stuff, and then I'm starting to feel like I'm just doing the same thing over and over and over again. I'm not progressing or getting any better because it takes forever to get stronger characters, and it's just it's like a fun game to play when I'm bored, but then the thing with me with phone games is I'll start playing them even when I could be doing something else.
Yeah.
So
like you actually get really into them, like that's your current game that you're playing a lot of times. Yeah.
And I want to beat these Mega 10 games, so I kind of need to stop.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that definitely. Well, I think that means that's our cue for listener mail
for
here.
Fan questions.
Yeah.
So I have again, some of these were banked, but we have a total of 8 questions right now. So the first one, this is an interesting one. You guys may be able to answer this to a degree. Stories Dreamer asks, when does a game start to feel like a second job? I guess kind of Pyro, what you were just saying right now.
Yeah, no, I actually, when I was reading the questions before now, I'm like, that's exactly what I feel with some phone games, is like the game will start off where I'm playing the game, but then eventually the game plays me. In the sense, like...
It's deep.
But I mean in the sense that you're playing it because you're having fun, you're progressing, but eventually you're only playing to get the daily stuff.
That's how I feel with some achievements. Like, well, am I really going to enjoy myself doing the knife-only run of Resident Evil? Like, but I want the achievement, though. So, like, there is kind of that.
I feel like if you're playing a game just to, like, get an achievement, like, I mean, that's different per person. I mean, but...
Yeah, some people are totally... I mean, like, I will try doing that for the Souls games because I get genuine pleasure out of that. But for, like... this goes, like, triple for games that existed before achievements but now have them because it's the world of achievements, like Duke Nukem 3D on Steam. It's like, I don't care about those. I won't even look them up.
I would say that the way it is for me, and I know that I am in the minority with these kinds of games, but any game that doesn't have a technical end game,
like an MMO or something.
More particularly sim kind of games.
Okay.
To me, like I know the progress in those games is watching your stuff flourish.
Yeah.
But it also just without an end game to me, it's a lot less satisfying. Like especially and something like Animal Crossing is like a big one where I think that's basically like going to work.
I think it's one of those things. 2 points I wanted to make. Like, one, not to say that everyone's jobs aren't fun, but when you start to play the game just to play it and not because you're having fun, that's when it feels like a job. And the other thing is, like with those sim games, some people can create goals for themselves that they would want to work towards. But if you don't have anything that you really want to work towards, then it's really hard to want to play the game, and then it starts to feel like you're just playing it just because. And
with a lot of people, some of those games are social events. Like it's a lot different than when we grew up and we had like SimCity 2000. Like a lot of the sim kind of games have interactive elements that they can do things with their friends. Like I'll say for instance, like Minecraft. My cousins love playing it with each other. And I have 3 young cousins that love Minecraft, and they play it on the 360 with 3 controllers. And that is a lot of fun, and they'll like go in and they'll build something together. So that's not like work because you're having fun and you're being creative. But if I was by myself, I wouldn't like that kind of thing.
I could see that.
I don't usually like that kind of thing anyway, but having other people there makes it bearable. But even more so with them, like it's a social experience. It's like, hey, they get to show off what they made to their friends, to their cousins, and just basically get to do all kinds of cool things in there and get to know the world. Whereas with me, maybe I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I just need some structure.
You could also argue this kind of ties back to what Pyro was saying. Not so much doing something to do it, but like, unless you're into this kind of thing, because some people really are, but like anything that requires excessive grinding.
Yeah,
it requires grinding. Yes.
Like in an RPG, like some games are designed around the fact that it knows the players will grind. So if you just want to get through the game, you're gonna have a bad time. So you need to grind. So you're gonna have a bad time.
That's the problem that I have with a lot of MMOs, especially like Korean MMOs that I used to play. Is like the game will get fun, but eventually when the hour or two that I play every night is just to level up.
Yeah, you hit like a block.
It's like this is. I mean, it was different when I had like shows I can watch, because I can like when I was playing WoW, I would just watch a TV show while grinding, and that's okay. But eventually, it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, and actually, from my perspective, as a Let's Player, even when I'm really enjoying the game I'm playing, I have to hook up my microphone. I like that's so hard, but like I have to hook up the microphone. I got to set up the capture stuff. I got to capture it. I know I'm gonna have to edit the footage later. So like sometimes when I'm Let's Playing, I have a game that I Let's Play, and then I have a game that I play just for me to relax. Like, even if I'm liking what I'm playing, sure, I'm doing it because people are going to be like watching and listening to it, so I want to get it right. And then there are some games that I'm playing because I'm neurotic and I want to go through series. And if I do that, I want to get like every game I can. So I might play a game like Silent Hill Shattered Memories. I ended up actually really turning around and liking that game in the second half, but the first half, I was not feeling it, and I'm like, but I gotta get through Shattered Memories, so I'm just kind of playing it and being like, I'm alright, okay, I'm playing this game now, and here we go. And actually, Pyro, I mean, you guys play games with me when I've Let's Played before, but Pyro, for Danganronpa at the end, when we're capturing all that extra school mode stuff,
yep.
Oh my god, it was just sitting there, pressing the X button.
Yeah, I don't like stuff like that.
It was like, I managed to get through that. I was watching, like, that was the thing, I would watch a TV show, I was doing it, but when we were sitting down, I'm like, this is taking a lot longer than I remember it taking.
And that's when we're going fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of stuff like that either.
And even with my JoJo LP, the last thing I did was do a showcase of everyone's special moves where they have interactions with each other, and stupidly, that game doesn't have a practice mode at all, where you can like adjust your power bar and just do your super move right now. So I had to like sit through a loading screen to get to a fight, and then play for like 2.5 minutes before I would get enough power to be able to do the move. It took 3 or 4 hours to capture footage for showcasing of characters' moves, and that's like insane. It should have taken me like 30 to 60 minutes tops instead of like 4 hours to just look at a player's special moves for each of the characters on the roster. That felt like a freaking job. Like, it had payoff every time, but it was like, now here comes 2 minutes of footage I know I'm not going to use. I'm just like, So there's that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think we answered that one pretty good.
Okay, so question number 2 then is from Neko Green Dragon. Do you think video game movies will get their breakout move like comic movies had Blade and Spider-Man? And do you think it's possible for them to reach the level of popularity of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies? My answer for this, I don't know if anything's going to reach the popularity of Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, because they like made a franchise of that, but at the same time, I do think that video game movies will get better. Like the good comic book movies we have now are because the people who are making them are the ones who were dissatisfied with the ones that came out like in the 80s and like the 60s, like the mediocre Superman movies, or what was Superman, like 70s?
Yes.
And like all of those movies,
70s and 80s.
Like all of those movies kind of sucked. Like, I'm sorry, Superman fans, but like, you could do better. Like, and
1 and 2 are okay.
They are okay. Like even 90s hero movies, that's when they were starting to get good.
Batman '89.
Yeah,
was a good movie.
Yeah, that was a particularly good one. They were getting good, and the 2000s and like more the 2010s is where they really started picking up steam. Video game movies, they've been around. Mostly they suck. Mortal Kombat was about
it's the best one.
Those are national treasures.
Yeah. Silent Hill, the first one, kind of butchered the plot, but that was gorgeous, and it captured a lot of the essence of Silent Hill.
Yeah,
but a lot of video game movies have been
kind
of like, a lot of video game movies have been made by a guy who's like, hey, that video game's popular, as opposed to someone who really played the game and likes it. So I do think that there's going to come a time where video game movies make a comeback and get, I don't know how good, but better.
Yeah, I feel like I'm more of a pessimist on this. Like, I want them to be good.
I also don't want a glut of video game movies, because I'm so freaking burned out with the Marvel movies. Like, there's, like, go away. Like, the last one I saw was, like, Avengers. Like, there's so freaking many of them. I can't.
Civil War was quite
I enjoy
good.
all of them, so I'm not complaining.
No, I know they're good. Just I can't be bothered. Like, I can't even do this. I'll watch Infinity Wars because it's the Infinity Wars.
I'm thinking, like, I would like them to be good, but I have a feeling the only ones that would be good and would be like this would be if they made, like, a Minecraft movie or something like that, just sadly. But,
to be fair, some things just don't translate. Like,
that's what I was going to say, was the fact that the problem with making movies about video games is video games themselves are known to be interactive mediums. So it's really hard to translate that into a movie where you lose the control. Plus, most video games are meant to be, like, at least a 5-hour story, let's say.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
with
Uncharted,
2-hour movie, and it's just really hard to do that and give that interaction. Sure, you can take the story and distill it down to the necessities to actually tell it, but I think the fact that the popular games nowadays would not lend to movies.
Yeah, it's funny because Uncharted looks like...
Uncharted is probably the only one that I could say would
even with Uncharted. Uncharted looks like a movie, the game, but you also got to remember that, like, it purposefully has beats. You know, there's downtime where you're just platforming. There's the more intense times where you're shooting at enemies or doing the chase sequences. There's the actual story moments, which have varying degrees of intensity. But if you just have the cinematic stuff, it's going to feel like something's missing, because there is. Like, case in point, the Ratchet & Clank movie. How much of that game is shooting enemies and upgrading your guns and seeing what stupid things they become? But that's not the majority of the movie, because that'd be dumb. But when you're missing that, you're kind of missing what makes Ratchet & Clank Ratchet & Clank.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to weigh in on this. The reason why comic book movies work is because comic books are fully fledged stories.
Yeah,
they're well developed, really well like cultivated stories at this point. Most comic books have been really good since the 80s now. Like there were exceptions to it. Like there's some really good comics from the Golden and Silver Age. However, the modern age has blown all of them out of the water, by and large. The ones that started in the 80s and then moved on up have all been written extremely, extremely well. It's a well-formed medium that can translate well, just like a book can translate well to a movie.
Well, like, especially because, like we were saying with, like, the comic book movies from the 2000s, like, comic books themselves are now known to be taken more seriously by a mainstream audience. They're not those stupid things that little kids buy. Like, it's like adults can read these.
Yeah, so my point here is that what makes most video games fun is what you're doing in them rather than what's happening.
Yeah.
So, like, movies are about what's happening. So video games can get by a lot on just an aesthetic and a fun thing to do. Case in point, when Bungie was saying they were making Halo, what they needed to do was they needed to craft a really great 30 seconds of fun and then replicate it over and over again and do it in different ways, but still have that 30 seconds of fun be, like, the center of what you do in the game. And essentially all video games are like that. Any action game, anyway. You play Devil May Cry, you are hitting things with swords and shooting them.
And you feel good getting that triple S.
And you're doing it, but you're doing different variations of it, but you're still doing the same thing from beginning till end.
And that'd be boring to watch.
And it's not boring to watch somebody do that, but it's
very flashy.
It's boring in a totally non-interactive medium.
Well, no, that would be amazing. Like, I would happily watch that 2 or 3 times. Just, you can't make the movie based on the game itself, because that's the entire game. But, like, if you were to have 2 or 3 scenes of just flashy, crazy, like Jackie Chan choreography, like I'm okay with that, but you can't overdo it.
See, and what I'm going to say here is Mortal Kombat is probably the best video game movie ever made, and a lot of people would say that. And
it's simple. It's a tournament. You fight.
Well, the reason why is because Mortal Kombat itself was based off of movies.
Bloodsport.
It was based off of Bloodsport and Enter the Dragon. Now, if you combine those, you get Mortal Kombat the game, but you can easily translate it back into film. Now, there's not much to it other than it's a tournament and goofy crap happens, but that's what happens in the game. They got the tone right as well.
Not to mention they didn't go too deep into the lore.
No.
I was watching like Dina Natali's review of Mortal Kombat Annihilation and why it failed, and one of the reasons she gave, which makes sense, but I really didn't think about it at the time, was that they tried too hard to be accurate to the game. Like, they went into like lore that didn't go anywhere because there are too many characters. Like in Mortal Kombat 1, they had Sub-Zero and they had Scorpion. And if you've played the games, you might be aware that Sub-Zero killed Scorpion's family and Scorpion himself, and Scorpion wants revenge and he's seeking out Sub-Zero, and there's this whole subplot, and the movie doesn't touch it. Like when you first meet them, they're working under Shang Tsung, and Shang Tsung's like, here they are, normally deadliest of enemies, but now they work for me. And that's it. That's all you need. They hate each other, but they don't because plot, and okay, done. That's really all you need.
So, getting back to this, what a lot of people view as story in games isn't really story as traditionally told. So with video games, when you have this action happening on the screen, you kind of also fill in the gaps in between the little story bits that you actually get. So you fill it with the way the themes of the music and the area and the environment all make you feel. Like Zelda, for instance, that's a perfect game for this kind of thing. Almost all Zelda games barely have any story. There are the later ones have more story, but they still barely have a story. Now
they don't need one.
They don't, but people say they love the story of Zelda games. And it's kind of because the story is told as the land is telling it to you. Mm-hmm. Like the environment is telling the story to you. It's not exposition. It's not actual events that are happening.
Yeah, like in Ocarina of Time, you draw the Master Sword for the first time. You're an adult. Whoa, cool. You walk outside, the marketplace has been destroyed, there are re-devs everywhere. You can put 2 and 2 together.
But, like, the main character's mute. That's not going to work in a movie. Like, unless that's the movie's thing. Like, that the main character is mute, so...
Yeah, like Hardcore Henry, but that was, like, that whole movie was taking the piss.
Yeah, but, I'm just saying, like, unless they're making a point to make the main character mute, and that's part of, like, the symbolism or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
Well, actually, not to mention, why a lot of characters are mute in video games, especially RPGs, is because they're supposed to be avatars for the player. So, like, a Dragon Quest movie or a Dark Souls movie would be freaking weird because the character's really supposed to be you.
Yeah, and I'll have to add that one thing. I actually think that it's really hard to make good book movies, too, when you think about it, because, I mean, I know that I'm kind of biased. The books that I really enjoy reading are the Discworld books, but most of what's told in those books is not in dialogue.
I was just going to say, like, in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the funny part is actually the prose. Like, the way that the author describes how goofy the world is actually the funny part.
Well, the example, that is true, but the example you love to give, I remember you've told me a couple of times, was most of the opening of the first chapter of Catch-22, where, like, the actual event, if you were to watch it in movie form, I haven't actually seen the movie, I know they did do a movie of Catch-22,
sure.
But, like, the beginning of Chapter 1 of Catch-22 is just paragraph upon paragraph describing how a guy's censoring letters and signing them with fake names, but, like, the way it's described is really funny, and if you were to watch it being done, it's kind of like, what a jerk, he's censoring. And you would need a narrator to explain what's happening, but that would be corny.
Would be with voiceover.
And, yeah, but that would be, like, that's a very dated, kind of cheesy thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things, like, the only way that it could work is if prose was being expounded upon, and so that's why a lot of books don't work as well as as movies. You know, everybody always says the book was better. Well, that's the reason. Also, you know, they can go into a lot more depth. A book is much longer than a book.
Not to mention, there are even little basic descriptions. Like this one, I found to be a little corny because once I discovered that more than one author used it, I was like, oh, good, it's your like, you know, reach into your file cabinet and pick up a descriptor kind of thing. But I remember reading a description of candle flames, and like flickering, and it said like the candle flames were like doing arabesques, and I'm like, ooh, so flowery. You wouldn't even think to notice something like that in a movie if you just had candles in the background, because like, that's not the focus. It can't be. You know, something like that. You just missed a little bit of detail.
I mean, I think back to like some of the best experiences that I've ever had in playing a video game, like Half-Life 1. Half-Life 1 has an extremely simple story when you look back at it, but the way that it happens and how it's experienced is a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So a guy goes to work, performs an experiment, the experiment goes wrong, aliens invade, a militia comes to kill everybody who's left over, and then he gets sucked into the alien planet to finally have a showdown. That's it. Those are all of the beats of that game. Now, that's leaving out all the details, but that's not a very complicated... there's no motivation in those characters other than you're the player and you have to go forward. There's no reason to want to save anybody other than maybe you should because you're the good guy. There's no good reason to have any attachment to any of the characters in that game.
Yeah, honestly,
than they're kind of goofy and it's cool to save things.
Like the same thing happened with the Doom movie. Like, what is Doom? You're on a moon base, literally hell breaks loose, kill demons. That's the game, and then go home. But the Doom movie, they can't really do that because that's too basic. So they had a whole bunch of characters that were getting killed off that you were supposed to care about. They had only a couple of enemies because they needed to be important encounters to deal with the plot. Whereas the actual game, you are like swimming through enemies. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then they had to have like the Rock be the final boss because if you just have a generic demon do it, it would be weird. And like, the best part of the movie, I think, was the first-person sequence at the end, because it was kind of like, that felt the most like the game. But even then, it wasn't quite the same, because you're not playing. So, like, it's very different when you're watching someone else do a first-person game. Like, you're walking forward very slowly, oh, a monster comes, shoot. Like, it doesn't feel right when you're not playing it.
I would probably tell the audience that, like, most of good video game experiences in movies for me have been when movies kind of emulate the feel of a video game rather than try to emulate an actual video game.
Yeah, again, best video game movie ever made is not a video game. Hardcore Henry.
Hardcore Henry emulates a video game and does it extremely well.
I cannot believe how good that movie is.
And it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. So does Crank. Crank is Crank and Crank 2 are structured like video games. They have bosses. They have like go through this and go through that.
They even joke about that in the second movie, where Jason Statham's like, talking to his girlfriend, I gotta be honest with you, I'm not actually a video game designer. And it's like, who was gonna believe that?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a sequence in Old Boy that feels very much like a video game.
The hallway.
The Raid is very much a video game kind of movie, but it is not a video game. It's not emulating a specific video game, but it feels like one.
The closest the Raid comes to would probably be Kung Fu, which itself is Game of Death.
It's Spartan X, Meals on Wheels.
Spartan X? Oh, okay.
That's Kung Fu.
That's what Kung Fu is? Oh, is Meals on Wheels? Well, Game of Death also had him go up a tower and fight bosses.
No, well, it has tropes of Game of Death. You're not completely wrong. Okay. It has some enemies that emulate Game of Death, but it's the official movie of Spartan X, which is the Japanese name for Meals on Wheels.
Oh, I didn't know there was a Japanese name for that.
Yeah. So, it's the official Jackie Chan movie.
Oh wait, no,
game.
I remember the title was really weird. Wasn't it like Wheels on Meals? I remember like I never understood that.
Yes, Wheels on Meals. That's what I meant.
Yeah, it's like what?
That was because because
I haven't seen the movie.
No,
so.
the word on the street because of that is the reason why they named it that is
trademark.
No, it's even dumber.
Okay, because Meals on Wheels I think is a thing.
The people that localized it were weird and low budget, and also were superstitious and thought that movies that began with M were bad luck. So they called it Wheels on Meals rather than Meals on Wheels.
Do you know what the rationale behind that is? Because like, I'm afraid of 13. Like that's an American superstition. I get that, but like, what's up with M?
I think they had bad luck with 2 movies that began with M.
Oh, so it's like it's an
had
in-house superstition.
Yes.
Like if you're in a play, don't talk about Macbeth, like that kind of thing.
But it turns out that Wheels on Meals is like one of the most celebrated like classic kung fu movies. People love that movie.
Yeah, I need to see that.
It's like it has one of the best fight sequences in kung fu movie history.
Was that the latter one?
Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
Oh, Urquidez. Yeah, I have
Urquidez,
seen that.
yeah.
That fight was freaking sick.
Where they're like, there's candles in the room, and he like kicks so fast that it blows the candle out, and that actually happened. Like, that was
the force of his kick blew out like all like 4 or 5 candles in a row, or maybe it was a candelabra. But
it's
it was
just a
gorgeous.
single window, single candle, I believe. But
no, it was definitely multiple, but it might have been like on a single like candelabra or something. But it was like whatever. This is like the most pedantic conversation we've had. But like it's like, but no, that is a freaking vicious fight. Like there's a part where like Benny the Jet's just throwing like a whole bunch of punches, and Jackie Chan's pushed up against this long ass dinner table, and he's blocking the punches, but the force is just like moving the table like across the room. It's just like it was like a freaking video game before video games existed.
Exactly. So, like, anything that has structure like a video game where you have to climb through multiple layers of something in order to get for the character to get somewhere, or they're progressively another good one is Afro Samurai. That's like one of my favorites. He has to fight through a bunch of bosses.
Every episode has a boss.
Yeah.
I love Robo Samurai.
I mean, there might be some there might be some reasoning to maybe some of those games didn't have any intentional inspiration of video games, but a lot of them did. I know for a fact that Afro Samurai and it's kind of like Mega Man almost.
Actually, speaking of Afro Samurai, ironically, that was one case where the translation from a show / movie to a game didn't quite work, because the show, like, it was done really efficiently. Like, he's walking along, oh my god, here's a boss, long drawn out fight sequence, but in the game you have to fight a bunch of goons to get to the end of a level to fight a boss, and like Afro doesn't really do that. Like, episode 1 might have him kill a couple of just punks to establish that he's powerful, but like in the game it feels like padding just because the show didn't do that.
Yeah. So, to answer your question, it's very, very difficult to make a good video game movie. It just is, because it doesn't translate well. And not a lot of good movies make good video games either, I might add, and that's why it's hard to make a good video game from a good movie video game. I mean, Scott Pilgrim was great. Everything Scott Pilgrim is video game related, and became a video game last. It was actually like the
It was a comic first, then a movie, then a game.
Yeah, but
that was always a very rare exception.
It was always heavily inspired by video games to begin with. Even the comic did from the very beginning, and had a video game like structure from the beginning. And on purpose,
like numbered bosses, like literally numbered bosses.
And everything turned out great. The comic's great, the movie's great, the video game's great. But it also had that in mind. All of those things were thought of while things were making it. So it's actually one of the rare exceptions where all 3 of the mediums actually work well, and it's mostly because the people making all 3 of those things really freaking cared about the source material.
Well, actually, speaking of which, the people making the movie liked the comic so much that they were like, we're making this movie, like, before the comic was actually finished. Like, the movie had an original ending.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And but what was also cool, though, was that they had theorized a potential, like, dark ending, and the comic creator actually came in, like, because they collabed, and the comic creator said, oh, that's not anywhere close to the kind of ending that I would do, and they altered the ending to make it not what he would have done, because the comic and the movie have different endings, but, like, conform more to his standards, which was pretty cool. And
the video game took all of that as the backdrop. Each Evil X is a great backdrop for a single level, and then like added the structure of a video game that heavily inspired the comic, which was River City Ransom.
Yeah, when you beat up the guys and they drop coins.
Yeah, I mean one of the bands is called Crash and the Boys, which is part of the same series as River City Ransom.
Oh, nice.
So
and the venue, I think, was Clash at Demon Head, which is just straight up the name of a game.
Yeah, I mean, so you do have evidence of good video game-like movies being made, but one that's specifically based off of a video game is very, very difficult to do because they have to fill in so much and also still retain what you like about the video game.
But by the way,
and what you like about the video game may not be what you think is what you like about it.
Well, actually, a case in point, the second Silent Hill movie... Oh, well, before I get to that, this is going on a bit of a tangent, but do you know what the original planned movie ending was going to be?
No idea.
Like, unnecessarily dark. Like, Scott Pilgrim is crazy and has been killing off her exes.
Yeah.
Like, that straight up, like, whoa. Alright, so,
that sounds just like a stupid fan theory of
well, that sounds like the
happening.
bad ending of a Silent Hill game. Because it was, Origins. And I don't mean, like, it was a crappy ending, I mean, that was the bad ending. But what I was going to say about Silent Hill 3, when you were saying what you think you like about the game might not translate in movies, the Silent Hill 3 movie, so the second Silent Hill movie, Silent Hill Revelation,
Revelations.
No, that's Resident Evil. No, Silent Hill had, Silent Hill is very weird puzzle based. Like Resident Evil and Silent Hill both have like really odd puzzles, and you're kind of like, why are they here? It makes no sense. So Silent Hill 3, for example, had a puzzle when you're in an amusement park, and you're kind of in one of those little ride areas where you're inside a tunnel, and there's this wooden door that's locked in the back, and to unlock it, you see these two statues who are missing something. Snow White is missing an apple, and Cinderella is missing, it's like a red shoe, and I know the whole thing is glass slipper, but whatever, red high-heeled shoe. So you find those, and you put them on the statues, and you hear the door unlock, and you're like, okay. In the movie, they don't, well, they do go to an amusement park, but in the movie, there's a part where they're at the motel, which is an actual location in the game, and they're just chilling, and you just kind of see, on top of the head of the bed, the red shoe, and nothing's ever done with it. And it's just kind of like, remember that? That was an item you needed to solve a puzzle. But it's just there, and the camera sort of makes it like an important part of the shot. So if you don't know the games, you are really confused. And if you do know the games, you're like, they're not going to solve video game puzzles, are they? And they don't. So it's just weird. Like, if you miss the Silent Hill puzzles, it feels like something's missing. But if you have them, it feels stupid because, like, do you really want to see actors solving these obtuse, like weird, like, escape the room puzzles? It's just like, what? So it's just kind of sitting there for no reason.
On the other hand, there are some great movies.
Well, there are movies that are designed around that, like the game. But with Silent Hill, the movie, it's like, what?
There are also video games that are. There are also movies that lend themselves really well to video games. Like the Alien series is a great backdrop.
Oh my god,
for
yeah.
Or like Alien
There's a reason
Isolation.
They made 100 video games based on that.
Yeah, I mean, Alien Isolation is a great premise. It's basically the first Alien movie. You have a single alien after you.
Yeah, and every other Alien game ever made is Aliens.
Yeah, and so like there is some stuff that translates well. It's just very difficult from the video game to the movie. It's just it just is. If it goes the other way, it can work. But I don't even know of any that are planned to come out. I'm just trying to think. The last one that came out was World of Warcraft, and none of us saw that.
Oh yeah, from what I heard about that game, it was only based on like the really old Warcrafts, so even the WoW people might be alienated, and that's the only game people know of the Warcraft series anymore. So it's like, what?
There was some really deep lore in that.
Yeah, apparently if you're a big Warcraft nerd, you'll be all over it. But like, I played Warcraft 1 and 2 back then, but I think most of that stuff would still go over my head.
I really can't think of like there was the Hitman movies. I didn't see either of them.
Those were mostly action from what I gathered, and Hitman's all about being as stealthy as possible. You can play it however you want, but realistically, if you're good at your job as a hitman, you're not going to attract the attention of everybody.
I mean, that Max Payne was not good as a movie,
No.
Which is funny considering like it's Noir the game.
Yeah, it should be a movie first, but nope.
Well, I don't think they got the social commentary and also like the black humor of it.
Well, this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. This is what you get when you say, "Hey, Max Payne's popular. Let's make a movie of it." Instead of, "I love that game. Let's make a movie of it."
Yeah, like a lot of Max Payne is black comedy. You know, it's kind of melodramatic to be melodramatic, kind of like Twin Peaks is.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks is melodramatic because it's kind of it's overly melodramatic, like to kind of like shove it in your face as melodramatic. Like
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like Fargo, the movie and the show. It's a murder mystery, but like there's so much stupid stuff in there. You slowly realize as you watch that it's really a dark comedy and not a straight up dark thriller. Like it kind of like subverts its own genre almost.
So yeah, I think we really touched on that on it. It's really like a lot of Japanese video games that have been turned into movies have totally like had the point of them not been made because like how
the Yakuza movie is missing. Well, the Yakuza movie was a little different because that game's plot is freaking everywhere, and they had to cut out the vast majority, surprisingly, of Yakuza's plot to like have a movie exist. But at the same time, like they got basic elements in there. It's like we got to save the little girl, but they didn't go into like all into her story and everything. So it just kind of felt like a video game movie, but there wasn't much substance to it. Even though it was Miike, so the style was so good, and the guy who played Majima, so good.
Perfect.
But the movie was
perfect.
Majima was awesome.
As a whole, that movie is not a great movie, but it has fantastic scenes in it.
Watch Kiryu fight Majima in the batting cage. It's delightful.
Any scene with Majima is fantastic.
Also the big shootout at the end where he's like, it's great. Kiryu's like, oh, he's only interested in me, like because the little girl needs to leave, and Kiryu's like, well, he only wants me dead, so here's what's gonna happen. Just walk out there in front of like all 10 guys firing shotguns, and she does it. And Majima's like, stop, like, and everyone just kind of silently reloads. It was great, and when she leaves. Like he literally calls time, and when she leaves, he's like, okay, and they all just start firing like at Kiryu behind cover again. It's like little quirky stuff like that just pleases me.
Absolutely. So I think we pretty well.
Yeah, we have time for one more question.
Yeah, I would like to do one more
because the fourth question would take a little too long to answer because it's going to get into movie territory. But number 3 is by Fakafon. I think we're going to like this one. We could probably each come up with one example. What are your favorite video game mistakes or blunders? And then, for example, one of my favorites happens in Dark Cloud. Dark Cloud's one of those games where your character officially has a name, but it's like Zelda. You don't have to call yourself Link, you know? So your character's name is Tone. So it says, one of my favorites happens in Dark Cloud, where a cutscene calls you by your original character's name, Tone, instead of what you chose. And it's just kind of like, oops, forgot to correct for player input there. So also in Final Fantasy VI, I didn't even know this, but in Final Fantasy VI, the blind stat does nothing. So it's like, So are there any little just mistakes that you just find, like, what are your favorites?
I can think of one, I think. So in Dark Souls 3,
okay,
I forget the name of the stat. I think it was on Poise.
Poise is ridiculous. No one knows what that does.
So I think everyone was saying that it was broken and it's not working as it's supposed to. and the developers were like, no, it's working exactly as it's supposed to. But the longer it went on, people were like, we can't figure anything out. And I think eventually they came to say, like, yeah, it's not doing anything.
Oh, that is funny, because poise actually does have a purpose, and at least Dark Souls 1, I think it's based on maintaining your balance when you get hit really hard when you're defending, so you don't like stagger. But I guess in 3, just nobody knows.
Yeah, I would say that my favorite blunders, other than just like really crappy translated dialogue, like
I am error. I am Bagu.
Well, those are actually
we thought those were mistakes
correctly, but executed poorly.
Yeah,
executed poorly.
Error and bug was the joke, but we were like, for the longest time, I am error. It's like, is this an error message? No.
But yeah, I like stuff like that, like especially like Castle Shikigami 2 has some really bad fitting dialogue. Like nobody edited that at all. But I would have to say that I really just love pointing out when even the translator obviously didn't know that an R was supposed to be an L. Like,
yeah.
In particular, I could think of in Streets of Rage 2, there's a frequent enemy called Galcia. He's obviously supposed to be Garcia. How come nobody caught that? Is well beyond me.
Like when I played it as a kid, I didn't think of Garcia until years later because I didn't play the game for years. I played it as a kid.
Garcia's an actual name.
Yeah, but I was always just like, Galcia? Like what a strange name.
Like or an even more famous one one that probably people don't even realize is
Gradius. I know where you're going. Yep.
Gradius is supposed to be Gladius, like a sword from Roman times. However, it's been Gradius for so long that nobody thought to correct it. They just thought Gradius. It was the name of the series. It's just Gradius. Gradius is Gradius.
Yeah. And actually, sometimes you might even get intentional translation errors.
Gradius,
to avoid. Well, you might also get intentional translation errors to avoid potential copyright. Like I remember for the Hellsing anime, the back of the box said Alucard, and I'm like, dude, it's Dracula backward. Like
that's because they didn't want to spoil it, right?
Well, his name is freaking Alucard. But so like there might be stuff like that going on, or like with JoJo. Actually, with JoJo,
One Piece is the big one.
Oh, Zoro and Zolo.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like with JoJo, with the localizations, they've gotten names wrong, so they circumvent copyright.
Yeah. Like Vanilla Ice.
No, they don't even go that far. They go with Cool Ice, which. All right, fine. I'll take it. Like, if I can play the damn game, then I'll settle, No, but as for me, my favorite errors, 2 of them come to mind. One of them is just a really, really weird timing in a certain cutscene in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, where Sonic has his second encounter with Shadow, and Sonic has some snarky remark of like, whoa, what is my like weird fake doing around here? And Shadow's like, fake? Ha! You're not even good enough to be my fake. And then Sonic comes back with like, I'll make you eat those words. But like the timing overlaps the delivery. So it's like, you're not even good enough to be my fake. I'll make you eat those words. It's like, what? It's really weird when you see it.
There are certain games, I forget what game it is, but there's a very famous instance of like the end of the dialogue doesn't quite fit into what they edited.
Oh, so there's like 2 letters in a new line or something.
Yeah, or like they'll speed
congratulations, Jimmy and Bimmy. By the way,
they'll speed. Oh yeah, I love that error. Or they'll like speed it up to make it match like the lip syncing rather than sync the lip syncing to the voicing.
Actually, yeah, the JoJo Eyes of Heaven does that, where they just have generic mouth movements that don't sync up with what's being said at all. So you just have when you have if Joseph gets taken out in a match, Caesar will be like JoJo, but like his mouth is moving everywhere, like he's speaking a sentence, and it looks so stupid. And the same thing happens in El Shaddai. Like the lip syncing doesn't matter, and it's not even for English. Like even in Japanese, it just makes no sense. It's just generic mouth movements, and it looks stupid. By the way, the other really funny game thing I like, well, it's not even funny, but I really enjoy it, is the final boss of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. The Dark King's major weakness is Cure, the spell that restores your HP. If you cast Cure on him with your main character, it does ludicrous damage to him. But what's strange is if you cast Cure on him with your partner, your AI partner, it will heal him. So it's kind of like, what's going on? And there is a perfectly good explanation for this, but this is why it's funny. Cure was never supposed to damage him, because it will do that with undead enemies. That is an intentional game thing. So you're like, the Dark King's undead, I understand. But why does your partner heal him and you hurt him? Because you were always supposed to heal him. You were never supposed to damage him with that spell. It's just that you hit him with your endgame stats so hard that it goes past like 9999 for heal and loops into damage territory. And in fact,
that's how numbers work on computers.
Yeah, and in fact, it actually, from what I've heard, it actually loops several times. So it loops past heal, past damage, past heal, and like into damage again. And with your partner, it either doesn't or it doesn't loop enough. So because she's like less potent with that spell, so you have this accidental super move to use against the boss with your main character only, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, I also have some really hated mistakes as well. Like, for instance, Working Designs really like to tweak games when they brought them here, not just like localize them, but also like change their difficulty stuff like that. So they got into a situation where they made Exile 2 so hard you couldn't actually beat it. like there's only one way to get past this one room in the game. It's like one of the final rooms in the game. You cannot kill any of the bad guys there. They basically have infinite health.
Oh no.
Because they tweaked it. Like every enemy has like +1 or something, but like that ended up like they didn't test the game fully before printing it and didn't realize that, you know, the last level, if you +1 them, they're invincible.
That sucks.
Like that kind of thing. So what ended up happening, what you need to do, there is a way to get past that room, but basically you need to take knockback damage towards the end of the room and have the bad guys damage you into the last room.
That's so annoying.
That's the only way to get through the American version of Exile 2.
That's brutal.
And like they should have just not messed with the difficulty. Most difficulties in games are like fine the way it is. Like especially like if the original creators got it the way they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But you know that was just the mentality of that company back then. So I think we got that one too.
Yeah, that about wraps that question up. So we have 5 remaining. We'll cover those at a later time. But I think that's about the time we have for this one.
Yeah, we've done some damage here, and once again, please keep up with the questions. I love this. Keep it up because
so many entertaining topics of conversation.
And you guys keep coming up with new ones, and this is my favorite part of the podcast. It's just
I love it because like everything's a surprise.
It's great. I've been really enjoying it, and I also think that there's some really good thought that gets brought up during these discussions.
Yeah, definitely.
Keep it up. Love it. Keep coming back with the feedback. We will continue on making Corrective Consciousness a bigger and better thing. We're gradually plugging away, making progress on our other parts of the project. And just keep listening it, keep suggesting it to your friends, share our links, and please give us some iTunes reviews. I would really love some iTunes reviews, some likes on SoundCloud. Keep giving us thumbs up on Lotus's YouTube page.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I see all your stuff on YouTube, but you can download this stuff from like SoundCloud and iTunes and listen to it wherever you want. You know, you don't have to be glued to your computer for that to happen. Yeah,
I mean, a quick explanation of what happened last week. I accidentally uploaded Pyro's
Pyro's raw
dialogue,
audio.
raw audio.
So it just opens
by
with him
itself.
talking to seemingly nobody.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you just have bits of him going, yeah, You're like, what?
So anybody who's subscribed to the RSS feed or the SoundCloud actually got two different versions of last week's one. I replaced the episode 10 with a fixed version, but I also fixed the original file. What I did was I wanted to make sure that the RSS feed subscribers got what seemingly was a new episode, just so that they would have it automatically fixed on their devices. So, but I digress there. That was a quick apology, but that was my fault for not checking. But keep it up, guys. Keep giving us feedback, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Until next time, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.